Merħba l-episodju ieħor ta' Bejn Xena u Oħra fuq Campus 103.7 jew bħala podcast fuq YouTube u pjattaformi oħra. Dan huwa programm fuq it-teatru Malti u n-nies jagħmlu possibbli. Jiena Nikolai Azzopardi. Illum se nitkellmu dwar l-opra f'Malta u kif qegħdin nippreparaw ġenerazzjoni ġdida ta' kantanti. Mej għandi lil Gillian Zammit, kantanta, għallima u fundatriċi ta' Opera Nova Projects. Il-programm tal-lum ħamluħ bl-Ingliż għal-benefiċċju tal-mistiedna tagħna llum. Gillian, welcome to Bejn Xena u Oħra.
Thank you, and thank you very much for asking me.
So you're mainly an opera singer,
Yes.
a teacher as well. For the benefit of the listener, they should know that we've worked together, especially over the last couple of years on the Opera Nova project.
That's right.
So tell me, how did you first get into opera?
Well, I first got into classical music, so I think my first memory was sitting on my mother's lap and watching my sister play the piano. And it must have been very young because I started playing the piano myself when I was 5. So this is a very early memory. And music was always what I wanted to do in some form or other. And it started off with the piano. So piano was my first love. I wanted to be a pianist. I wanted to go and study at the Royal College of Music in London. That was the plan. And when I was around 13, my mum used to go to Mass at St. Patrick's in Slema. She was English, and she used to go there, and she joined the choir. And I obviously used to tag along with her. And the choir master said, you know, you've got a really pretty voice. You should take singing lessons. So I thought, okay, great. So when I go to college to study piano, voice will be my second instrument. So I started singing lessons with Antoinette Mijani. And the voice slowly started taking over as my primary instrument. I just felt I could express myself much more when I sang as opposed to playing the piano. So it was a bit of just a role reversal. Singing became my primary instrument and piano my second. Then from Antoinette, I went on to study with Paul Asha. And then I studied in Italy. I spent 5 years in Italy.
Where in Italy?
So in winter, I was based in Parma. I studied with Carlo Bergonzi, who was one of the tenors of the golden age. I mean, he was already in that time in his 80s. So he was, you know, the period of the golden age of opera. And then in summer in Siena, so no complaints. I mean, about my student life in Italy. And then from there, when I finished my training there, I just started performing. Yeah.
And why did you choose to go to Italy? Because the opera, there's different schools.
Yes, different schools. I mean, it is really, and this is what I tell all my students as well. You have a path that you'd like to follow, but then sometimes another door opens.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
my aim was to go to Royal College, then to study voice. But before I went to do the audition for Royal College, I got this opportunity to go and study in Italy. So I took that. So yeah.
Fair. And what did you get at the time from there that wasn't available here?
Everything. I mean, when we're talking here in the 1990s, late 90s, would have been 93, I went. There was nothing. I mean, no performances, no scholarships, no fun. We weren't even in the EU at that point.
Of course,
so there was nothing. There was really nothing. It was a bit of a wasteland when it came to culture. We complain today that there's not enough, but honestly, compared to what there was then, it's there were no scholarships on offer. And when I told people, yes, I'm going abroad to study, even in those days, going abroad to study whatever profession was, not the norm. But then when I said I'm going abroad to study opera, I was like, why? Like, what do you need to do to study? How do you study opera? It really was not a thing. Yeah. So yeah, literally all you had was access to one singing lesson a week with your singing teacher. And that was it. There were no performing arts schools in those days, no musical theatre schools. Your class was divided with girls who went to ballet or girls who went to piano. And those were the extracurricular activities. No drama, there was nothing.
Even the kids different. After school
No,
stuff?
No after school stuff. No, nothing. Very different. And it's changed a lot in a short time. Really has. Yeah.
Allora, so then why... So, what was your experience Was that like a baptism by fire?
Totally. It was just
Because you're living in it.
You're living in it every day. And I went to a private academy, so Bergonzi had his own private academy. It was actually in a small town just outside Parma. And he was a huge disciplinarian. I mean, I learned a lot from him, but one of the main things I learned was discipline and how disciplined you have to be. So we were in this very small village called Busseto. And he chose this village because he was, in his day, the Verdi tenor of his day. And this was Verdi land. So Verdi was born there. Verdi lived there till he was 21. And then he moved to Milan and moved away from this village. But it literally was one main road, maybe the size of half of, I don't know, Republic Street.
Okay.
With a couple of shops that sold ham, a coffee shop, and then a bar where all the old men of the village would go, so you wouldn't dare step. And there's nothing else. No cinema, no entertainment.
Wow, so it's really you're
Nothing.
just there.
At 5 o'clock, the fog would descend, and then you wouldn't dare go out because you couldn't see anything. But he chose it because you were there to study, and you were there not to do anything else. But of course, as a 20-year-old, who was sharing a room with a Spanish 20-year-old, in his hotel, because he had a small hotel in this little village, and he lived in the hotel, so he could keep an eye on everybody.
Oh, wow.
And you would have your lunch and your supper in the hall where he would be sitting at the table. So you were under observation 24/7. But obviously we were young and we wanted to enjoy ourselves as well as sing. So we'd find like the only few young people in the village, and they'd take us to the next town where there was a disco.
Of course.
And Saturday night we'd just go and, dance and just like... But when he found out, and he inevitably found out, then you were in for it. I mean, it wasn't even worth what he put you through for having done that. But he just believed in discipline. And he was like, this career is, one of the most insecure, because it's not like you finish your training and you say, okay, now I've got a 9-to-5 job every day and that's it. You might get a job and then you have months of nothing, and then you wonder why on earth you did this.
Of course.
And spent all that money on your training. So he was a real disciplinarian. So, it was just a totally different world. Yeah. Apart from then everything else. So you had your voice lesson, you had music lessons, language lessons. So these are all just,
Of course, because then you have to learn how to sing in German and Italian and,
So it was total.
I imagine it was quite like a shift, even just to learn to sort of treat your body as an instrument.
That's it. Look after your body, look after your voice. I mean, because we are our instrument, everything affects the instrument. So, whether it's you're sick, or you eat food, or what you drink, or how fit you are, or, if it's particularly humid today, you have a little more phlegm than nobody else would notice, but you, because you're singing. So it's, you become much more aware, and, you have to, you do have to look after it.
So then when you come back, was there like a climate of, okay, now I can immediately go into this opera singing job, like what was it like?
It was, it's always been a tough career, and it is now, I think even more today than it was in those days, post-COVID especially. I always I had many friends who were also studying in Italy, but others who were studying in the UK. And the life, I think once I had done my training, the life of a singer constantly traveling and moving around from place to place, and it didn't quite do it for me. I knew I wanted to sing, and I loved singing, and for me singing was a form of expression. And I did it because I love music, and I wanted to share that love and the way that I felt I could express myself through music. So I kind of made the decision quite early to base myself in Malta, which in those days, again, no mobile phones. So it was a very different technological era. So no access, very limited access to competitions, or, you apply for a competition, you'd send your application in by post.
Well, yeah.
It was nothing online. So I knew by basing myself in Malta, I would be restricting my opportunities. But I was happy to do so because I would see friends coming out of colleges abroad and whatever, and not finding work, which was very normal, and having to do another job. And I didn't want to have to do that in a country which wasn't, not home away from family and friends. So I made the decision to base myself in Malta and work from there. And then quite early on, I started teaching. Mm-hmm. So I found the balance that worked for me between performing, teaching, and the lifestyle that Malta offers you.
So now you're obviously you teach as well, and when you have a new student, what do you say, or like a student that's developed, what do you think like makes them good for opera? What's like a good opera singer, like the qualities?
Obviously, the basis is the voice has to be there, of course. Then there's musicality. So I've come across many singers who have great voices, but not the musicality to go with it.
For people who don't know, what's the...
Musicality, so a good ear, so pitching, rhythmic abilities. Certain things musically can be taught, but other things can't.
Yeah.
So there's a good element of musicality that needs to be there. And then the boring things, again, coming back to discipline, the mindset of you never stop learning in this career, because your voice, as you grow, is constantly changing. Your voice grows with you. So the voice that I have today is not the voice I had in my 20s, because it's changing, it's developing, it's maturing. You can sing things later in life that you couldn't sing earlier on. So you constantly have to keep your training going.
Of course.
You stop training the day you stop singing.
Yeah.
So, and again, because it is such an insecure profession, the mindset has to be very strong. There'd be so many times where I thought, that's it. I've tried enough. I'm going to stop. And then your love for what you do keeps pushing you on. But you have to have that strength of mind, that strength of character. And a good portion of luck as well. Being in the right place at the right time, having the right person hear you. There's so many things that go into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then I think obviously I've worked with you over the last year, but I'm not like a person with a lot of opera experience. So there is some stuff of that I saw that in hindsight obviously makes sense, but was new to me. One of them was that it's a completely different technique when you're singing opera to singing pop or jazz or whatever, different kinds of music. What are the differences?
So I think good technique is one. Mm-hmm. It's the way then you use your voice to reflect that musical style. So even within opera, you have Baroque music ranging from Baroque up to contemporary music. The way you sing Verdi, for example, is not the same way you sing Baroque music, but not that your technique changes. It's the way you shape a phrase, the way you color a phrase, the musical language that is required to sing that particular kind of music. The same with musical theatre. So in musical theatre, so in opera, you use chest resonance. Okay. But you don't belt. Whereas in MT, you belt. But it's the same principle, it's the same technique, but it's used in a different way to colour the voice according to what you... Yeah. So I've taught musical theatre students and pop students, singers as well. So technique is the same, really.
Because I've heard you say especially students who are still learning technique shouldn't do a lot of different kinds of music. I guess that's more mentally of learning different techniques.
Yes, it's. I think it's less mental, less vocal technique. I mean, it depends what the singer wants to do, and if somebody wants to become a professional opera singer, doing the same amount of pop or the same amount of MT, it can work because there are singers who can do both equally well. But again, it's sometimes in the eyes of the people who are employing you. Maybe they think that, especially locally, I think that happens, that they think, because that person does pop as well, then they're not a proper opera singer because they're delving into the world of pop, which for some people is like a shock horror. So it has different...
It's like a branding thing.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Because I always found that interesting. Even I think something that's interesting, and we'll get into Opera Nova project, but I think something that's interesting that you teach a lot is the acting part of it. Because I think a lot of people think of opera singers as singers, but obviously you like perform. It's a story, you know. It's
Yes,
you have to...
and that was very much in the old days. You would just like be able to stand and sing because that's what people came to hear your voice, you know, and didn't really care if you could act or not. You know, I mean, you watch Pavarotti. I mean, the voice is glorious, but all he does is stand there and sing. But today, you know, people expect more. They expect to go to an opera and see something that's realistic and see something that is contemporary and that they can relate to. So yes, it has changed, which I think is good because opera is such a multifaceted art form. You know, you have the voice, you have orchestra, you have visuals, you have, you know, costume. You have so much in one. You know, it's like it is the classical version of musical theatre. So if you go, you know, so it's the same. It's
as in the simplest way, it's musical theatre with this genre of
exactly with a different style of music.
Exactly.
So
we mentioned as well that you started the Opera Nova project. This is your third.
We're going into the third year.
Yes. So what instigated your want to start it?
I think, I mean, having said this, I started saying that in my time there was very little happening. Whereas today there are a lot of performances that take place. There isn't, in the classical world, the training that goes along with that. So I think when it comes to performing arts, drama, musical theatre, I think there's a good structure for anybody wanting to move into that to get the training. There wasn't at least the same when it came to opera. And we have, I mean, a huge amount of voices, and everybody who comes says, my goodness, I wasn't expecting this level of voice and this quantity. We are a musical nation. I don't know what it is, but, you know, it's there. Something in the water. I don't know what it is.
Something in that reverses Moses just makes sense.
So, you know, Denise, my co-founder of the Opera Nova project, Mulholland, and myself had worked with singers for many years, and we constantly felt the need for something. But the time was never right. And, you know, then suddenly in 2023, I just literally woke up one day and said, Denise, we have to do this. We just have to bite the bullet, go for it. If it works, brilliant. If it doesn't, then it means that there wasn't the need for it, or it's just not something, you know, I always think in 10 years' time, am I going to look back and regret that I didn't do that? And so I just wanted to go for it. And the response from the local singers was incredible. And singers who I thought I knew everybody on the island who could sing or sang even in an amateur way. But people, you know, came to the auditions. We had over 50 people auditioning on the first year that I had never heard, and beautiful voices. And lawyers, doctors, engineers, people who, because of a lack of structure, you know, went into something else in life, but always thinking, oh, it would have been nice to be able to sing. So yeah, we just started it because there was this lack of a holistic training program here. You know, we have a number of singers who have gone abroad and become successful. We've had Marvik Monreal, Mezzo, Nico Darmanin, Cliff Zammit-Stevens. These are all my ex-students who have gone abroad, went to college or academy and you know, had a career in singing. But again, for them, it was a complete, you know, totally new world.
Of course,
and they were going into colleges and academies with people who had done this at school from, you know, age of 5, who had a huge background. And so it was a huge catch-up for them. And then those people who remained in Malta who couldn't, for whatever reason, either financial or family, you couldn't go and do 7 years abroad, you know, end up not doing anything with their voice. Which is a shame. And then, because we don't have that level of trained singer in Malta, what happens? Then whenever you have an opera, always bringing in the foreign singer.
Of course, yes.
You know, so it's twofold. We want to prepare those students who want to go abroad and make a career, but we also want to raise the levels standards here so that, you know, we are the first people that, the local singer is the first singer, you know,
of course,
that gets the opportunity.
Yeah, that was always something from the outside looking in that bothered me, sort of, you know, that it's always these foreign singers.
And it's not because there's a lack of talent, it's just because that talent didn't have a structure or you know,
or platform.
a home, exactly.
Yeah.
So the program started that way, and it was from day one, we wanted to bring the top people in the industry to Malta. So we've had Paul McNamara, who's the artistic director of Dutch National Opera Academy. We've had Adrian Kelly, who's the artistic director of the Young Artists Program at Opera Zurich. We just now had Professor Janice Kelly from Royal College. She's the chair of vocal performance at Royal College. So we aimed high straight away. And straight away, apart from the training, went hand in hand with performances. Because, you know, it's one thing being in a class and these are your tools, and then you have no space to use those tools. So it's constantly been providing them with performance opportunities. Last year, at the end of our first year, we produced, as you remember, our first fully staged opera, which was The Magic Flute at the Malmo Theatre. You know, full orchestra, 30-strong orchestras, costumes, set, everything. And they were all local singers, with the exception of one, because we didn't have that voice type, who came from Guildhall in London. And it was great. We had 2 fully sold-out houses. So the local audience wanted to give these singers the chance.
Impressively young audience.
Yes. And so it was great. And this is, again, another thing that we want to encourage. It's not just the singers. It's bringing in a new audience, you know, showing people that opera is accessible. Opera is relatable. You know, it's not something lofty and something that you can't relate to, because what is it? It's emotions at the end of the day. It's emotions set to beautiful music. So why can't that appeal to everybody? So
I mean, there's something about it that's working, I think.
Yes, definitely.
I think I'll take from Magic Flute, it was, you never know, because to be fair, I hadn't worked on a full stage opera before, but like, it sold out, like, and quickly.
Yes, quickly, and we had a waiting list.
Yeah.
Literally for ticket. I mean, it was great.
And I do really commend that. How important do you think is the experience with different tutors and different people from different places?
I think you have to be careful as well that you choose like-minded tutors. So when it comes to training voice, the end result is the same for everybody, but obviously everyone has a different way of describing that process or getting to that end result. I think the important thing is especially when you have so many guest tutors, that you're not confusing the singer, because obviously then too many different ways of describing the same thing can be confusing. So we always make sure that we bring tutors who are, like I said, like-minded, and it just opens up. The way I describe something to you might click, but I might describe it to somebody else and it just doesn't click that way.
Yeah.
So it's, and again, you know, opera singers, when you're on stage with a director or a conductor, in that moment, they might want you to do something totally different to the way the previous opera conductor and director wanted you to do things. So you have to be ready in that moment to be able to say, okay, this, I'm going to process this in the second and give them what they want. You have to be that flexible.
I think it's I think also like platforms them in front of people who have influence in different ways. I like that you do also like different recitals and performances in different kinds of spaces as well, because that changes things, you know.
Absolutely.
How the room echoes.
Yes,
and how,
totally.
And you can tell like we had a concert recently that we worked on, and there was one of the singers saying, at this space, I really don't like this space because I can't hear myself as well as...
Yes. But you have to get used to that and deliver anyway.
Of course, you never know
your audience, exactly, your audience doesn't care. Your audience there wants to, you know. Yeah. So, and you have to learn to adapt and learn that in a certain acoustic, okay, this is what I have to do, and in another acoustic, I have to be careful about this. So, yeah.
So, so then how do you structure, like, because you're essentially creating a syllabus, basically, because you're 3 years in, that's about as long as a course is at university, right? So like, how do you structure that syllabus?
So, because, I mean, the age range as well of the students is from 16 to 40, and it's quite a wide age range, and we opened it up to 40s, because there are so many good voices singing who didn't have that access to that kind of training. So we felt it was only right to offer them that level of training as well. And because the course was very new, and this kind of training in Malta is very new, it was literally sitting down and thinking, okay, what are the basics? So we have to really start from basics and start building up from there. So the first year we kind of touched on a lot of subjects. So we give everybody a taste of what's to come. Because again, it's like, as well, people have this maybe mental image of what it means to be in a school like this, in a project like this. Language lessons, studying French, Italian, German, and we do everything. We have Pilates classes, we have dance classes. We also look at the other side of the industry, legal matters, accounting. So we really try and take a holistic approach. Acting classes, of course, music theory, piano lessons. Now we've started offering piano classes as well, because it's important, again, with musicality. So the first year was touching on a lot of subjects. And then the second year, we started breaking those subjects down, giving each subject more attention. And this is what we're carrying on to do now in the third year.
Yeah. There's obviously so much that people don't even consider.
Yes.
I remember the conversations, especially last year on Magic Flute, where I would be there trying to take notes, but it's in German. And it's on sheet music, which I also can't read. So it's two different languages I don't understand.
Yeah.
But it's really is something that, even stuff like people say Pilates.
Yes. Because your body is so important, and the core and your breath. So again, like you said, these are things people don't think. People think, oh, yeah, I can sing, you just open your mouth and out it comes. But, and also the psychology behind it, performance anxiety and your mental well-being, which is really important. I mean, so many people do suffer from performance anxiety.
Of course.
And until recently, it's not been anything that was discussed. It was just, okay, you have to get on with it. But, there's a way to deal with it and help someone who's going through that. So that's all the kind of things that we focus on.
So if there's someone, maybe a teenager or someone who's a bit older, who always has had a passion for classical music, always had a feeling that they're good at it, what would you recommend is what's your first steps into taking it seriously?
I mean, I think in the classical world, it would just literally be going to a good voice coach, a good vocal coach, have a couple of consultation sessions, see where your voice, you might want to go down a route, but your voice might not be cut out for that route.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had many people over the years coming saying, I really want to be an opera singer, but the voice just doesn't lend itself to that style of music. So it's important that you find somebody who's going to guide you in the right path. And this profession, again, is too difficult not to tell people the truth. And sometimes the truth is hard to hear.
And the kind thing is to tell them
absolutely,
at the beginning,
absolutely,
10 years later.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
It is a responsibility, and you have to take that responsibility seriously, I think.
Yeah. And I can really see it. It says something that you have. How many students are you at now?
We are this year now coming up. We'll be 32.
Which, before I joined, I was maybe there'll be 7.
Yes, we thought that as well. We thought, okay, if we have 10, it will be amazing. But it just showed that there was a need for it, and it was the right time to start. And now I'm getting as well, we have a youth choir, so we have children aged between 7 and 18. So the youth choir, I train the youth choir as well, and we bring them into certain performances. And so many of those children as well, for whom it might not have been an option previously to think that could be a career, saying, because I'm really interested once I turn 16, So, yeah.
The fact that there's so many people, and people considering to audition for schools abroad and stuff like that, it's I think it's really a net positive for the industry.
It is. And I always will recommend, no matter how talented I think the person is, to have a backup, because it is important. Of
course, yeah.
Because again, it is such an uncertain path, and you will find periods where even if you're a successful performer, where there's no work, So you do need, I feel as well, a backup plan, just in case.
Especially as a performer, because
Yes.
like, I don't know, I feel it as someone who works on the production side of things, and that's, you find more available work, you
Yes.
know, like, so let alone like when the right role has come up, where you look the part, your voice
That's
is
it,
right,
that's it.
and then
That's
the
it.
director has to like you.
That's it. And because today as well, even the opera world looks, unfortunately, are important.
But it's just the thing, like,
It's just the
this
thing.
character
Yes,
needs to
exactly.
look
So
young or needs to look
that's it.
skinny.
That's it.
It's
Yes, yes.
just
And
kind of
today
what
it has
is.
become really important, which in the old days it wasn't. And in this respect, I think it's a shame because it is at the end of the day about the voice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I guess that's like when you're talking about like how it's moving more towards like acting,
Yes,
being
yes.
more involved and stuff, like that's the thing with theatre and
Yep.
film and all of
Yes.
this stuff is just
Yes.
part of it, you know.
Yes.
Which is why, you know, don't take auditions personally. Don't
That's
get
it.
too invested in
Yes, yes,
auditions
yes, yes.
'cause-
And again, always have a backup plan. And everyone, you know, who's come from Royal College or Dutch National Opera Academy, they said it's important. And we had a Q&A session with one of these tutors. And in the Q&A, somebody said, you know, if I send my CV in and I say, I'm a doctor, like, are you going to look at me and think, well, she's not taking her singing seriously because she's also a doctor? But the situation that I've been in till now, I mean, you know, I had to do another job and I enjoy being a doctor, but I equally enjoy singing. And he was like, no, I will actually look at that CV and think, wow, this person can, obviously, seriously multitask, but also, you know, is intelligent enough and has other interests. And he said, I will look at that and say, okay, yes, I'm interested in this person.
Yeah.
So it's not a negative to have, you know, that. And it's important.
Absolutely. I really can't wait to see what the future holds for Opera project. So, Gillian, Malta has quite a strong opera scene. Quite we have the Baroque Festival. There's the two opera houses in Gozo. What's built this such a strong scene in Malta?
I think it's traditionally, I mean, in the old days, the opera house in Valletta, the Royal Opera House, was really a place where singers would want to come, and even composers of the period want to come and try out their operas here because the audience was so knowledgeable.
Oh wow!
So it was a real centre. So I think that is still in our collective DNA. Having said that, it has, I think, left us as well with an audience that is a little bit more traditional.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe an audience that's not as interested in opera of a later period. So our audience goes love Puccini, love the Traviatas, La Bohème, which are fantastic operas, of course, beautiful operas. But I think we are a little bit limited when it comes to the repertoire that we choose, simply because we try to cater to our audience, rather than possibly introducing things that, I don't like to use the word educate, but to expose our audience to different sounds. And I think that's an important part of where a younger audience comes in, because a younger audience will come in without any preconceived notion of what, you know, the bel canto operas like Donizetti would sound like, and they're open to more contemporary music, which I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, when we did the Magic Flute, it was a very contemporary adaptation of it.
Exactly, and a lot of people came to that. So we have, as well, generally an older audience that come to watch opera. I think that's pretty fair to say. It is an older audience, and of course I know a lot of the audience goers, and they were like, we'll come to Magic Flute because we want to support you and the project, but I've heard it's slightly modern dress and I'm not so keen on it. So then after the performance, I went up and they said that was actually really interesting. It made it more relatable. And the younger audience said the same thing. They felt it relatable. Also, flute is great, and it was one of the reasons why we chose flute, because it is a great opera. beautiful melodies, beautiful tunes that, people can immediately, relate to. But there's a lot of dialogue as well in flute. And we chose to do the dialogue in English and Maltese, which again, for a local audience, made it very relatable. Yeah.
But it's interesting because like a few episodes ago here, we had Stephen Oliver here, and he was saying something similar with like they made the See Shakespeare audience, which is when they do traditional dress, they get a lot more people showing up. I don't know.
Yes, I
correlation,
think,
but
I don't know. I mean, I think it is the generation. Then you have to really look at your audience, and do a good survey and really look and see the ages that are coming and what they come and what they're attracted to. But I think it's really important that we update. But again, we don't take it to the extremes, because then obviously there are houses abroad that take it to the ultimate extreme just to be shocking and just to, I mean, there was a performance really recently in Bayreuth, which is a Wagner,
a
very important Wagner festival, and the singers were wearing something, I don't know, on their heads, which was an AI. So according to their movement, this thing, whatever thing they had on them, was transmitting the set. So depending on their movement, so it was always different. It wasn't but the audience hated it.
Yeah.
The audience absolutely hated it. So it was booed, and the director came out and just was like,
"Oh wow, that's bad."
Totally. And this particular festival, the audience are very vocal because they believe that Wagner is theirs, so they have the right to thumbs up or thumbs down, and this was a big thumbs down. But again, what's the need for that? For me as well, sometimes when they become too out there, you just distract from the music, and the music again, which you come back to, is so beautiful. It does not need gimmicks.
Yeah,
but it's important to update.
I think it's really interesting because obviously me, I always like the original stuff.
Yeah,
but I think opera in general, you have such a, because you have Mozart, you have like Beethoven, you have like some of the best pieces of art that humanity has ever created, right? It's just so there's also that sort of responsibility to bring this to new generations and stuff. So I think that sort of balance is very difficult.
It is difficult. Yeah. It is difficult, and again, it depends where you are, in what country. Germany tends to be much more avant-garde. Italy tends to be more traditional. So you do have to cater to your audience. But again, show your audience that there is something else out there as well, apart from what,
And because you mentioned Italy, Germany, why is it that you think that opera has really specifically developed? I think the main languages are German, Italian, there's a bit of English.
French.
Why these languages?
So Italy is the birthplace of opera. Yeah. So Monteverdi was the first composer or composer to formulate opera as we know it today, to give it the structure that we know today. It is a European art form. So China has their own form of classical singing of opera, which is not something that we are used to listening to. So it is a very European. There's a lot of Russian opera, French, no Spanish opera, but then Spanish have their zarzuela, which is their traditional form of kind of like folk singing. But they have operas, but zarzuela, so it's more folky than traditional classical music. I think that's really the...
Why? So because I think there's quite a bit of history of opera Maltese as well. I think especially operettas were more of a thing 100 years ago.
Yes.
Why don't you think it's a bigger part of
I think in those days operettas were as well translated into Maltese. So they would have originally been in Italian and they translated them into Maltese. Look, writing an opera is an expensive business. So commissioning somebody to write an opera is expensive. Now, you need to find the funds today to be able to do that. There was recently a performance, I think it's 2 years ago now, in Gozo of Valeriana, which is the opera that Joe Vella, a Goston composer, wrote, didn't finish before he passed, and it was finished off by another Maltese composer. And so that was performed in Gozo. I don't know how much, again, you say, but you listen to operas in Russian, or you listen to the language, maybe doesn't lend itself so much. I don't know. It's hard, because today, again, I think it comes down to funding as well.
Everything comes out.
Everything comes down to funding. And funding is, I won't say it's getting less, but it's harder to find funds. So again, remember, opera as well is a very expensive production. I mean, it's really... So you say, am I going to write an opera which I might actually not, might never see the light of day because it is so expensive to produce. So...
But have you ever had to perform
an opera in Maltese?
No.
No.
Because I was going to ask you, what do you think the language, like performing differences are? You think it's...
Again, I've sung in Maltese, so there are song cycles by Maltese composers and individual songs. It's like anything. It's like any language. I mean, Italian is the most natural and is, I think, the easiest language to perform in. I love singing in Russian because I find Russian a very musical language. French is difficult because there are so many rules and regulations. So until you get your head around all the pronunciation, that's tricky. German is difficult because of the hundreds of consonants in each word. So Maltese, again, every language has its, pros and cons, and So I think it's a language thing for the singer per se.
Because I guess Maltese is like very like consonant heavy.
Yeah.
But then we have the Italian.
Yes, the influence.
So I don't know. I always like find it really interesting. And like my sensibilities is always, let's do new stuff. Let's push Maltese culture. So I'd love to see like a fully staged, like a properly pushed Maltese opera.
Yes, it's tough. And again, I think as well, it's again the mindset of maybe the local audience say, oh, an opera in Maltese. It's an educational thing. It's maybe introducing that rather than to our older audiences, to the new generation. And again, that's where I think musical education in schools is so important, because that's where you sow the seeds of course, new ideas.
Yeah. I mean, how exposed are we to?
Not very at all. No.
I can't say that I've been.
No, I mean, exactly. You're closer to scholastic having in my day we had a school choir. We did have some music lessons. So I think in those days there was a little bit more awareness. I think we've lost that. I think it's become so curricular based.
Yeah.
And again, in COVID, what were the first lessons to be scrapped?
Yep.
Music and drama, because it was
absolutely.
And so what's that showing? The students, the children, and also their parents, that the schools think those are the least important subjects. And we're not only talking here about producing performers, we're also talking about a generation of people who don't have cultural awareness.
Yeah.
Which is very sad.
I think there's something to how it, like, because I do have a vague memory, and to be fair, I think since I've been in school, there's been like the theatre O-level introduced and stuff like that. Yes. So I think there's also something with music as well. But I remember in our primary school lessons, like Mozart was taught as like has no words. You know what I mean?
Yes,
you're just listening to it.
No,
I don't think it's a performance.
I think as well it's a general, it's not just about music. I remember one of my younger students, I gave them a piece of Baroque music. And I said, okay, so let's have a look at this. It's Baroque music. And it was like, okay, so what language is Baroque in? I'm like, hey, what do you understand about Baroque? Nothing. And this boy was 16.
And he's going to classical
You know,
lessons, so
you know?
he's more interested than...
So I said, okay, do you know Valletta's a Baroque city, St. John's? No, what's Baroque? I said, okay, just put this piece of music away, just go home and,
Google Baroque.
Google Baroque. But, it's scary as well in a way that... Because it's not about, like I said, it's not about just creating the performance, creating a society. That's exactly. That's.
Yeah. You can say that about like a lot of other art forms as well. I think to be fair, classical music in particular, I think there is like a, like some people do see it as like this elite thing,
No,
which
definitely.
makes it like difficult to
And again, they see it that way as well, because prices for operas, tickets are, I mean, you go abroad, you can pay anything from 75 up to 500, sterling, or at Covent Garden, or dollars at the Metropolitan. It is expensive. And this is another thing we try to do, even with Magic Flute. We wanted to keep the prices as low as possible to really encourage people to come, and people with children, So, and it worked.
Yeah, surprise, surprise, the young generations came.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you pay €75 each to go and watch an opera.
Yeah.
And then inevitably go out to dinner. That's a very expensive evening.
Of course, yes.
So,
Yeah. So with that in mind, as we sort of begin to wrap up, what would you like to see the next few years of opera in Malta, or classical music in Malta, or Opera Nova? Where would you like to see the next few years go?
I would really like to see that the project and what we're trying to do, and the collaborations that we're forming as well with, the major entities in Malta and Gozo, start to take fruit in that our local singers are given those opportunities to be the performers that are chosen to perform.
Yeah.
Because that is the difference. That is, that is what the aim of what we do. So training them up to a certain standard, so that the Manuel Theatre, the Opera Houses in Gozo, the Malta Philharmonic Orchestra need a good performer, need a good singer. They know that they have a stable in Malta that they can turn to. I'm obviously not saying that you never bring a foreign singer, because that's important. That's important, absolutely. But it's so important.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when recently there were musicals that made open calls for roles, they found talent that fit the roles.
Absolutely.
Who were local.
Absolutely.
And that also then goes into because if you're not bringing someone in from abroad, paying for their hotel, all that, it's making production cheaper,
financially, absolutely,
which can make the tickets cheaper,
absolutely,
which can bring in younger audiences, and the cycle goes.
And there have been so many times, I'm sure it's been the same in, you see people being brought in and you think, but these are nowhere near as good as ours are or can be.
Which I can imagine can be immensely frustrating.
Very frustrating. But just because, I've got a foreign singer coming in, so, but it's
Fair enough. And Opera Nova, do you think how would you like it to see it grow?
Well, we have plans now. We are looking at something very exciting for the future. We are, so...
Suspense.
Yes. Invite me back in shortly and I'll give you an update.
Well, can't wait.
No, so we have lots of collaborations as well with lots of entities abroad. So, the future is exciting. And it's really lovely to see. I think one of the nicest things about the project is the sense of community that it's created amongst the singers.
It really has. They really push each other up.
Yes, they're supportive of each other. There's no ego. But, again, previously they would just go to their one singing lesson once a week on their own with their singing teacher and have very little contact with... And now they're singing in front of each other, discussing and, creating events themselves because it's given them the confidence to do so. Mm-hmm. So it's really lovely to see that community. It really has created a community.
I really do think you've built something really, really beautiful. And I think it's set to be sort of continue to grow. So if you had a passing interest in this, or you've always wanted to, and
Yes.
you
I mean, this is
you
what we're
haven't
here
thought of
for,
it,
yes,
yeah.
to train. So even if you're somebody who always wanted to explore, we open auditions, we listen
Yeah.
to you, and again, we can guide you. We've had people coming to audition, and I said, this is not the path, but you are musical and you have this bit, so, you help the person find the right path. And if we feel that this is the path, then this is what we're there to train you, And like I said, we're open from 16 upwards, so it's starting at the very beginning. You don't have to have any experience to join us, because that's what we're there to do, to give you the experience. So.
Absolutely. All right. So before we wrap up, every week I sort of go through what's coming up, because we encourage people to go watch as much theatre as possible.
Very good.
In September, Naughty Millok ta' Big G's returns at the MCC. The Rooftop Summer Series is holding a one-night performance of Il-ħad fuq il-bejt ta' Francis Bejn. There's the Improvizza Festival, which is the improv theatre festival. Ħobza ta' Kuljum, which is Do Theatre's new original production. And then there's also, very humbly, my production coming up last weekends of September called Min Jitħaq l-aħħar at the Theatre Next Door. An original production. I encourage everyone to go watch all of these if possible. Gillian, thank you very much for coming on
you.
the show.
Pleasure.
Any final thoughts before we go?
I think just everybody, don't be afraid to explore. Opera is, is something that can appeal to everybody, any age. I mean, again, I've trained over the years many projects, many choirs, and I also have the children's choir for the Joseph Kalea concert, and there we used to have up to 250 children, and the Joseph Kalea concert is a mix of pop and classical, so it gets pop singers, etc. And inevitably, the piece that the children would leave the rehearsal singing would be the classical piece that we were working on, which just shows that it's it's there to be appreciated, and not to be afraid of it, because there's nothing to be afraid of.
Very good. Yes, absolutely. I agree. And there's something to expose yourself to it.
Yeah.
You might not like it,
That's
but
it, of course.
give yourself
Try
the
it.
chance
Exactly.
to try
Exactly. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but yeah.
Same thing with any other art form.
Absolutely.
So yes, thank you very much
Very
for
welcome.
listening, and thank you very much, Gillian, for joining the show. This has been Bejn Oħra on Campus 103.7, and we'll see you again next week.